Final Fantasy Legend II, despite its name, is not a Final Fantasy game. Instead, it's the second entry in Square's SaGa series, which started way back in 1989 on the Game Boy and was called Final Fantasy Legend in North America to capitalize on the popularity of Square's best-known RPG series. The first SaGa eschewed the traditional RPG adventure setup and cohesive world building to focus on trying out new gameplay mechanics, throwing the player into a series of small, puzzle-like worlds in which they can experiment and grow their character's skills. SaGa 2 takes all of this one step further, adding another class, the Robot, with its own unique way of calculating stats, providing a connected world with one overarching goal, and including real characters. Don't get me wrong, the first game had characters, but they each mattered for about a single quest and rarely felt like more than generic NPCs. Only the final boss made a memorable impression, and I'd bet most who've played the first Final Fantasy Legend would agree. This time, your main character's father is an adventurer of sorts who abruptly abandons your family to go on a quest. After you follow his trail, he lets you in on his mission to collect each of the world's 77 Magi, shards of a powerful artifact that must be protected. So begins your journey to discover more about these relics, the gods who created them, and the mysterious world around you. The story is all told through a disappointingly brief translation, which no doubt leaves out much of the original Japanese, but it's meatier than the first game and a little more coherent. More importantly, it's fun. Having a solid overall goal is welcome, and the aforementioned Magi further the immersion by integrating into gameplay. Once collected, you can equip them for boosts, such as increased defense or speed, or other benefits like protection from magical attacks. Most useful are Magi with non-combat effects, such as revealing how many other Magi remain in the current world, or warping you to towns, and the potential of gaining a new helpful ability provides motivation to press on. As in SaGa 1, the gameplay focuses on stat growth above all else. Like before, the monster class only grows by eating meat dropped from other monsters in order to change into a new, hopefully more powerful monster. This system is more complex than it seems, and a guide is practically required to consistently get more powerful monsters. The apparent randomness is part of the fun, but I'm a min-maxer who took no shame in looking up what meat to eat next to get usable mons. Mutants work the same as before, but in a change from the first game, humans now grow in the same way. That's right, no more buying stat buffs. Shelling out for healing items or new weapons is the way to go in SaGa 2. Using weapons in combat gives a chance for both humans and mutants to increase a stat after battle, and the stat you increase depends on the weapon type used. While a human might want to focus on strength and agility, a mutant might favor agility and magic since they're the sole class that learns spells naturally. Indeed, after every battle, mutants have a chance to replace the last spell in their inventory with a new one, which provides a bit of strategy in how you manage your spells. Robots, the game's biggest new feature, are a jack-of-all-trades class. Their stats don't naturally increase. Instead, they're based on equipment. Weapons raise strength, or sometimes agility, and armor mostly raises their defense. Robots can use as much equipment as they have slots available, so it's possible to build one into anything from a giant wall, to an agile tank, to an all-out damage machine. Unlike in SaGa 1, you choose one party for the entire game. In a rarity for the series, there's no life point system here, so I felt a connection with my characters as if they were all childhood friends who decided to join together for this quest. You can form any combination of 4 classes you want, 2 mutants and 2 monsters, all humans, all robots, or one of each, which is what I chose on my first playthrough. It's a balanced party that lets you try out everything, and I enjoyed discovering the variety of options it allows. For example, keen players will quickly learn that robots are great damage sponges, even with just a few pieces of armor, and since enemies favor attacking the first character in your party, putting a robot in that slot is a no-brainer. If you don't have a robot, however, that's no problem. You'll need to play more defensively at first, but you won't need to buy as much equipment, and more of your characters will be able to grow. Unless you chose a party of all monsters, in which case, God help you. I ended up using a robot as a wall with a few fixed damage weapons. It wasn't dishing out much punishment, but it could tank enemy attacks like a champ to protect my party. While that's not optimal damage-wise, I figured it would give my human and mutant more chances to attack, thus raising their stats faster. This kind of decision is why I love the SaGa series. There's always tons of options, and although not all of them are good, most range from acceptable to excellent and everywhere in between. You have true freedom to play how you want and also project your own imagination onto the story, which leaves much unexplained. And this really is all there is to the game. Managing equipment, making sure you have enough healing capability, optimizing your builds, and figuring out where to go. As a Game Boy game, SaGa 2 expects you to play in short chunks, so the encounter rate is high, but the level structure makes up for this. It's similar to SaGa 1's, small, independent worlds connected by a basic overworld. This time though, there's not as much of a radical difference between worlds. There's no weird underwater cities or futuristic dystopias here. There's still a few off-kilter themes, like a giant racetrack world or an exploration into another character's body, yikes. But most of the others hew closely to familiar fantasy and mythology tropes, giving the game a more grounded feel. The dreamlike and seemingly drug-infused ideas and locales from the first SaGa aren't as present here. These worlds feel like real places, only now connected by a bizarre network of doors which act as dimensional pathways. Compare that to SaGa 1, where the worlds themselves were the crazy parts, but they were connected by a tower in the game's real world. Instead of a bored god forcing you into realms of madness as part of a sick test, in SaGa 2 you're using artifacts created by the gods to move between realities and further your quest. I appreciate how SaGa 2 turns the formula on its head, and both game structures fit their respective stories. SaGa 1's about a bunch of nobodies who eventually become the first one strong enough to climb God's tower and pass his test. In SaGa 2's world, on the other hand, the gods are all but legend, and the heroes used knowledge passed down over centuries to unravel the mystery of the gods and better understand their world. To sum it up, SaGa 2 bests the original in most ways. I do miss being able to buy stats, what a funny mechanic, and the game is much easier overall. Honestly, the final boss is the only tough fight in this one, but the addition of robots, more story, and less obtuse puzzles make it one I'll want to play again. Ito and Uematsu slay it with the music as always, and you know, this might be my favorite Game Boy soundtrack. Highly recommended, play it today, and that's all I've got. Thanks for watching this JRPG Quickie. Leave a like for that algorithm, subscribe for more videos on RPGs, and have a blessed day.